Good morning. Welcome back to Joe on the Job Site with another edition. Today, my guest is Joe Brown. Joe, thank you for coming. We've got a lot of topics to cover today, and we want to see how each individual sees and looks at projects and the variations that they come up with, and how they use their experience as they've grown through the industry to make their way to the superintendent that they are today. Welcome, Joe Brown.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I got the first question for you. And how many years you've been in this industry?
Almost 39 years.
39 years.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good term
It's
in the industry.
yes.
39-year veteran.
Yep.
You don't see a lot of that coming because of the age gap we have now and the supers that are coming up.
Yep.
Tell us quick, how did you get your start? What was it like for you to start and earn your way up the ladder and some of the things you did and went through to get to where you're at today? Because right now you're a general superintendent.
General superintendent, yes.
So,
It was kind of a funny story. So it started out, I was over at my best friend's house. His father was a general superintendent in the industry, and he asked me, I'd just graduated from high school. And he asked me, he says, "You just graduated. What are you going to do now?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm going to go to the beach." And he said, "No, no, no. What are you going to do for your career?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it much. I think I'll go to junior college and try to figure out what I want to do in life." And he said, "Okay, well, I want you to come to the out to the airport, and I'm gonna put you to work
that
on the
was the
job site."
new MCO?
That was the new MCO.
Wow.
That was back in 1987,
Wow. That
and
was a long
so
time
a
ago.
long time ago. So what started out as a summer job
Yeah.
has turned into a really long summer job.
So a
So
career came out of it.
39-year summer job.
Yeah.
Yeah, career.
What was your
Yeah.
first job what was your first thing on the job you were doing when you hit the
When I showed up, I started as a laborer. In my very first task, we did a lot of self-perform work,
right?
and we had a saw yard. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet. It was a massive saw yard. We built all of our own forms, and
So you
my
panelized the
we
forms, shipped them
panelized the
out,
forms. We shipped them over to where the building was being built.
right?
It had a boneyard out in the backside of the airport property, and I was first day on the job. They gave me a broom, told me to go sweep the saw yard. So I went out there and I started sweeping up the saw yard, got it all done. And by about 10 o'clock, I went back to my foreman and I asked him, I said, "Okay, what else do you want me to do?" He said, "I told you to go out there and sweep that saw yard." I said, "I did. It's done." And he just looked at me and he was blown away. I guess because I went out so quickly and got it all
You
done.
worked.
I worked, I had ambition,
Yeah.
and it wasn't about sitting around and collecting a check and running the time. It was get the job done,
Came to
move
work. You
on, move
did your
on to the
work.
next
Yeah.
activity. So,
What was the next thing they had you doing? I'm
so
sure they found out you had talent with the broom, but had to have more
yeah,
than a
yeah.
broom talent.
So it's kind of interesting. I went from, being a laborer. We had PT decks, so I got to go up onto the decks and I had to strip the cones. Put
And PTs are the post tension
PTs, the
cables that
post
are
tension
poured in the
cables that are
slab.
poured in the slabs.
Yeah.
And you pour the concrete, and then the next day you got to get up and strip the forms and strip the cones off so they can stress the
Yeah.
cables.
The cones that go in the end there
Yep,
of the cable where the
yep,
head hooks to it.
yep.
Yeah.
And the cables were all greasy.
Yep.
So I'd gone up there. I'd had a brand new pair of blue jeans on, a brand new Dickies work shirt on, and I get up there and by the end of the day, I am covered in grease. So I come home from work, and I was still living at my dad's house, and I go to throw my clothes in the dishwasher or the washing machine, and my dad looked at me and says, "Son, you're not throwing those dirty things in my washing machine, ruining my washing machine." So they ended up going in the garbage. Well, the next day I go to work, same activity. Sent me to go strip cones and ruined a second pair of clothes. Third day I go in there, I watch one of the other guys go into the tool shed, put on a Tyvek suit, and then walk out to go strip the cones. And I looked at him like, "You mean you had those things all along and you let me ruin two pairs of clothes out on the job site?"
Sometimes they let you learn the hard way
Yeah,
sometimes.
there was a little bit of hazing going on. They all kind of knew that, the general superintendent and his son and I were very good friends. So yeah, I caught a little bit of hazing along the way.
Well, but it taught you. You learned to think and look and listen.
Yep.
So
Yep.
where was your next? So you worked on that project. What did you move up in the rank before the project was done?
I did. So I started as a laborer. I went to did some concrete or the concrete stripping,
Right,
and then went to the concrete crew. And I was on the concrete crew for a little while. Then I went and did some form carpentry work. Then I also on that project went and did doors and hardware, installed doors and hardware, which was really interesting. And then towards the end of that job, that was about a 6-year project
right.
because it was multiple phases of a bunch of different buildings. And towards the end of that project, I was on the punch crew, so I got a good exposure to punch and quality
Quality
control.
control, things you don't wanna fall through the
Things
cracks.
that if you do right the first time, you're not having to do so much of it at the back end on the punch side.
Who was the general superintendent out
General
there?
superintendent was Rick Bundy Sr.
Oh, I
Um,
worked for him
yeah,
too.
great
He
guy,
oh, yeah,
great guy.
he had 2 sayings he taught me. 1, always take the gingerbread with you as you go along because you will wind up with the nightmare of punch list and corrective work.
Yep,
And 2 was don't expect,
inspect.
inspect. That
That's
was
right.
Rick Bundy Sr.'s
Absolutely.
famous notes that I remember from to
Yeah,
this day.
yeah. Something else I remember too is if he asks you a question, he probably already knows the answer, and you better
Yes, he
tell him
was
the
that
truth
way.
because he's already gone out and looked at it because
Yeah.
it does inspect.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that knew the job from one end to the other, and he kept it in his mind, and he could walk across the site and see things
Right,
that people didn't catch.
right.
Yeah. Where'd you go to after the airport?
So after the airport, I went to up to North Carolina, to Asheville, North Carolina. Worked on a federal building in Asheville. I had just gotten married, and
Did the
it's
wife go with you, or did you travel?
no, the wife went with me. It's an interesting story. The vice president came up to me. So I'm supposed to get married. It's a Monday. I'm supposed to get married on Saturday. The vice president comes up and says, "Hey, we need you up in North Carolina." And I said, "Well, guys, I'm getting married on Saturday, and I had a 2-week honeymoon planned. Can I go after that?" They're like, "Well, we really kind of need you bad. Can you cut it to a week on the honeymoon?" It's like, "Well, let me go home and talk to my fiance at the time." So I go home and walk in the door, and there's my wife, my fiance at the time comes and greets me at the door and everything. And I said, "Honey, there's something we got to talk about." Well, we were living at her mom and dad's house trying to save a little money for the wedding.
Right?
And her mom came walking by and overheard me say that. And she was thinking, "Oh boy, here we go, backing out of the wedding." And I said, "No, no, no, we're getting married. That's all." At that point, I could have sold her anything. I said, "We're just going to be living in Asheville, North Carolina after the wedding." So kind of a funny story how that all happened. So I ended up in Asheville, 2.5 years, worked on a federal building up there.
Now, was it a concrete structure, steel structure?
It was a concrete structure, precast. Had a lot of actually granite slabs for the exterior
So
of
the
the building
exterior was
and
precast,
glass.
where they shipped them in on trucks,
Yes,
stood them
yeah,
up, and anchored
yeah.
them.
It was all granite. Yep.
Any interior decks precast slabs?
No, they were all concrete,
Concrete
all
cast in
concrete
place with
cast in
shoring
place.
and
Yep.
tunnel
Yeah.
forms? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say I think it was a 6-story building right on downtown, right in the middle of downtown Asheville.
Wow, that sounds
So
like
it was fun.
a little constrained
A
job
little
site,
bit
on time
constrained.
deliveries
Yes, sir.
almost.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your position for them?
So when I went up there, I was a layout guy. So I got into the layout and doing the building control. And, back in those days, Rick Bundy Sr., we did all the layout for all the trades. He didn't
Right.
trust the other trades to go in and do their own layouts. So we were laying out block walls, drywall walls, door frames, all the control for the entire
So did you
building.
have one of those new pieces of equipment that did it, or was it a chain and measure?
We used a chain. We used plumb bobs, a lot of plumb bob work,
Yep.
and we had just gotten our first total station that would shoot distances,
Yeah.
the EDMs.
I like the total stations because they compensated for if you were measuring out and down at an angle,
Hmm.
you didn't have to hold like you had to hold the chain plumb and drop the bob.
Right
Those calculated that
on the
slope
slope.
add to
That's
give
right.
you your correct distance.
Yeah,
I love those things.
yeah,
And you could read them a lot easier because you didn't have to take a magnifying glass to look at the vernier scales
that's true.
to see how close you were.
Yeah,
And they were a whole lot more accurate.
they were.
Yeah.
They were.
That's pretty good. You're one of the first people that got to use one of
We
those
did.
on the market.
We did, and Rick was the reason we got to use it because he saw the value in it and saw where the industry was going, and he really pushed.
He was good with that insight,
Yeah,
looking ahead in the future in the industry and stuff. He was really good at that.
yeah.
So you finished that job. Where was your next one?
Let's see. While I was on that job, there was a hotel that we were building in Sevierville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it was kind of right across the mountain. And so I ended up having to go over there and finish the job. The superintendent got sent back to, I think it was Georgia, is where he got sent back to.
Right.
So I went over. It was relatively finishing stages. I
Yeah.
got this final CO and did the punch list work and all that kind of stuff. It was a Ramada Limited hotel that
Another lesson in quality control and
lesson in
taking the
quality
gingerbread
control.
with you as you go.
Exactly. I wasn't there for the start, so I wasn't able to do some of the upfront work, and trying to pick it up from somebody else sometimes is a little bit challenging.
So, what was your first project as a superintendent by yourself?
My first project by myself was a senior center in St. Cloud, Florida, and it was, I want to say, it was a single story building. It was also supposed to be the hurricane shelter for the area.
For the yeah,
So,
kind of like a HHA building they have here
exactly,
in Florida.
exactly. So we had some, load bearing block walls, fully, all the cells were poured, and we had precast double T's that went on the long spans of the roofs, and then we
Yeah,
had hollow core slabs that,
those are the ones they haul in on the truck.
yep,
You
yep,
put the wall up, and they have a
hmm
bearing point on them.
hmm
Yeah, those things got to be cast like 30, 40 days
yep,
before you can even pick them up and put them down and
right,
load them.
right.
Yeah,
And they were all cast up in Leesburg and then trucked down to the job site. So
that was pretty good.
yeah.
So, what when you walked on that job and you were a superintendent for the first time,
hmm
what was going through your head when you took the job and said, "Yeah, I'll take one and do it on my own"?
Uh, Probably a little bit of nervousness of the unknown. It's kind of like when you're a rookie in a sports on a sports team, you really don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
It's kind of the same thing. I really didn't know what I didn't know. So there was a little bit of a learning curve there initially, but I think being being curious and researching is what really helps me.
knowing the plans,
Knowing
the
the plans,
specs,
knowing the
and
drawings, look at the specs,
yeah,
and of course, if you didn't understand or didn't know, you have that lifeline. You pick up the phone, you call your mentor,
yeah,
and
they'll
that's
walk
always
you through
it's
it.
always nice to know that.
Another good one too is talking to the subs.
Yes.
You'll find out
Yep.
that when you bring the subs together and talk to them in the job as a whole for coordinating the flow and how it moves, you get their buy-in, the performance is better, your schedule works well, and they can point things out. I remember as a young superintendent, I didn't catch certain things,
hmm
and they pointed them out to me
Right.
and made the job much easier rather than just let it fly and then we fix it later. The in that era of superintendents or teams on the job, they were a whole job, and we used to sit afterwards. We'd buy pizza once a month or something, and
hmm
buy them. And you had a few. You'd go out and eat a little bite to eat, drink a beer with in the evenings and stuff.
hmm
And we all knew it wasn't personal. You could get frustrated, but it wasn't personal.
Right.
It was just frustration. And a lot of those guys would see it in me and come and talk to me and say, "Look, let me help you through this." Because I was young, I didn't know everything, and I still don't know everything today.
Right.
It's a learning no matter
Every
how
day.
old you are, every
Every
day,
day. If you
every
don't
day.
learn something every day, then you've missed an opportunity.
So on your that was your first job. What job would you say would be your favorite job that you were a superintendent on?
There's a couple of them. We had a really, really good owner, a really great design team,
Yeah,
and we had a team that we all really got along internally,
right?
our company team, and had a good group of subs. And that was over in Daytona on we were doing a lively arts project. It was a performing arts center, and it was right along the Halifax River. Um, but it was fun because everybody really enjoyed each other and coming to work.
Yeah, you
It
could
didn't feel like
laugh
it didn't
and
feel like it was work. It felt
yeah.
like it was fun.
Yeah, you could laugh and
Uh-huh.
cut up and
Yeah.
tell jokes to one
Yeah.
another. You didn't nobody was,
Yeah.
offended with some of the things.
Yep.
You knew certain things you didn't say, that was a given, but
Sure.
you could have fun and I remember going a lot of times on the jobs, you walk down the hallway with some of the guys, and they went fishing or something, and they one of them caught drug up an old bicycle tire in the rim,
Yeah.
and he said, "Yeah, that's all I caught the whole day." And so we had something to rib him about for the rest of the job. We'd rib him about his fishing and
Mhm.
stuff. Everybody had their little things,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was good.
What was who do you think was a great influencer to you to help you learn the trade?
Y
Was it one or two or three or something?
there's probably been multiple people throughout my career that have really been a good influence. Rick Bundy Sr. really took a liking to me and really helped kind of mold me into the person that I am. But I've worked with some other really great superintendents. I worked with a superintendent who's getting ready to retire in November with 48 years in the industry. And that was up at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, on a hospital project that back in the day was a $202 million project. It was a million square foot of occupied space with a million square foot of interstitial space for the mechanical areas and a 45,000 square foot energy center. So,
Yeah,
and there was not a lot of us. It was myself, the general superintendent, and I think three other superintendents, and that was about all we had as a field crew. So we had a lot of ground to cover.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the most people you've had on the job underneath you?
Uh, the project I'm on currently, I will end up with about 12 uh, superintendents, field
12, s-
engineers, 12 people
12
reporting to me.
reporting to you.
Yes, and then we have an office staff that'll be about the same size. So.
So, what do you think of that would be how will this our generation help the next generation come forward? You learned through learning day to day,
Mhm,
listening, paying attention,
mhm,
taking opportunities, studying, watching people, and people learn and the hear, see, and do's,
mhm.
and they all have different ways of learning. But how do you think? What will it be for us to help the next generation of superintendents coming along? What's something that we might do to help them?
We got to find the guys that liked or the gals. Quite frankly, there's a lot of women getting in this
I've,
business too.
I've had some women
Um,
superintendents that
but
were excellent.
but we've got to find the people who are really driven to want to be in the field, um, to actually go out and run the projects. It's okay to go to college and learn the school aspect of it. That's important. Some of our best superintendents have gone to college and come out and started in the office and realized, you know what, I kind of like the field better. I want to go out and actually be a superintendent in the field. I think the person that really works the best is one who's had a little bit of both of those uh, roles
Right?
because they understand each other,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a difference between the office and the field side. The field side runs all the
The,
building.
yeah.
The office side runs the financials. They do a lot of the paperwork, the submittals, the RFIs, that type of
And you
stuff.
have to
And we
remember,
got to have them both.
yeah,
We all
and
got to
you got
work
to remember
together.
the field doesn't spend the office's money without a conversation, and the office doesn't lead the field or show,
Hmm.
without a conversation.
Right.
So it's a group team
Right.
that has to mold the job and keep it in tune, and you
Hmm.
both have to have communication between the two.
Hmm. I mean, I've had really good superintendents that have never gone to college, that have come up through the ranks, but I've also had good superintendents that have gone through college and come out into the industry and made the move into the field as well.
And then when it comes down to that, regardless of where they come from,
Hmm.
it's getting on the job,
Hmm.
getting the experience. Each job is different.
Hmm.
I've built theme parks and hospitals, hotels, jails, nuclear power plants,
Hmm.
tunnels under roadways, and multiple projects. And each one is an experience in its own. And it's not a cookie cutter job.
Right.
Each job, even though it may be similar or something, you could have one in the middle of downtown Miami and everything is on time delivery and you got to coordinate lane closures.
That is true.
Having a young kid, I had a girl superintendent. I say a girl because she was young and out of college, and she came to work for me as an assistant superintendent on a project.
Mhm,
And the one thing Tia always asked me was, "What's next? What else can I learn? Teach me this.
mhm,
Show me that." I want to understand this. How did you know to do that? Why are they doing that?" The girl was full of questions, and she eventually went on and became,
Mhm,
stayed in the industry, became a
mhm,
superintendent, and moved up through the ranks.
mhm,
And I had a young kid named James. He was graduating college and he wanted to learn. And he was one of those that I'll never forget. We were on the project and he was given a task to do. And he came up to me and I had given him the task. And then the management came out and looked at the project and he come up and it didn't go well. So everybody had their conversations. Some were unpleasant, some were not. And I'll never forget, at the end of the day, he came to my office, stood in my doorway, and he said, "I'm sorry I let you down today." I said, "Really? What do you feel? How do you, what do you feel that
why
was?
do you feel that way?
Why do you feel that
Yeah,
way?" And he said, "Well, I was supposed to do this, 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 and this. And I got sidetracked doing this, and I wound up doing that. And I did partially of this and partially of what needed to be done. And it didn't turn out well." I said, "Guess what you just did?
you learned.
You learned.
That's right.
You learned how to prioritize your work, how to prioritize and think through what's one, what's two, what's three, what's four,
Mhm,
stuff we do every day."
mhm.
And so when he was done, I said, "Look, James, you just learned something, and that's part of this project.
Part of
That's
growth.
part of your growth.
Mhm,
I bet you in the future you'd never do that again, will you?" And he goes, "Oh no." I said, "That's how you become a superintendent. You
mhm.
learn from mistakes,
Yep,
you learn from listening, looking, seeing, hearing, and doing, and you capture it." And I shared with him one of my experiences. We were doing a concrete pour, and it was self performing work. And this particular pour required two pumps. And it was theme park, and I had to set a pump down in the bottom of the hole and pump into the pour. Then I had to set a pump at the top of the hole and pump into that pump to pump into for the slab. Well, concrete's ordered, yardages are set. We're trying to do 120 yards an hour. I had my discharge points, my cleaning, my stocking, my stacking of the trucks, my clean out stations, everything. Had my guys in place. I forgot to order the second pump.
oh lordy. Yeah,
But I had a good team of people. I had a John Thompson, I had a Dennis Magnus, and a Jim Munger, and our equipment company happened. We had put them on standby. Sit here for that loader.
right.
Here's the chain.
Yeah,
And so they literally shoved them concrete trucks back down in the hole, and then we
and
pulled
pull
them
them
out
out.
with a loader.
Yeah,
And I got on the phone to the pump company while they're doing it, going, "Oh, please help me, help me, help me, help me." He said, "I got one finishing another job right now. It's a 42 meter." I
yeah.
said, "Send it.
I'll take
I'll
it.
take it." And it got there, and we rerouted the system and set up, and we finished the pour. It took him. We had an hour of fun.
Yeah.
You know what? And
I bet it never happened again.
it never happened
Uh-huh.
again. And when I'm sitting down to set up a large concrete pour, I make my list and I rewrite that list and I rewrite that list and I'm checking it and I'm walking and I'm looking.
Yeah.
I never forget that again.
You
That was something
you
else.
measured 3 times and cut once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I'm sure you've had a few of those.
yeah. I had kinda not quite a situation like that, but, that hospital job in North Carolina, we had an on-site batch plant, and that was
I
really
love those.
those it was great. This was a huge site. It was a 160-acre site, so we had plenty of room, and, I I took somebody's word for what yardage we were on instead of going and looking myself.
Yeah.
I assumed, right? You know what that means, what happens.
The expect.
So I assumed that the yardage he told me was correct, and I was calculating and ordering more concrete. And as I'm standing up here on the deck and I'm watching the concrete get poured out, I'm going, "Oh boy, I think I got too much." And I ended up with 3 truckloads too much, so 30 yards of concrete too much.
Yeah.
So I had to go, the walk of shame to my general superintendent to explain to him that I just threw away 30 yards worth of concrete that cost us money, and he thinking I was getting ready to get really a chewing, and and he looked at me and said, "Well, what'd you learn?" And I said, "Well, I learned that I don't assume that what I'm being told is correct. I go inspect and verify myself."
Right.
So
Yeah.
valuable lesson,
Look at the
very
concrete
valuable.
tickets, the
Absolutely.
mix,
Yep.
watch the testing lab,
Yep.
make sure they're
Yeah.
that's the same things I see on the project.
Hmm.
And I one of the things I had a young superintendent, that same one, James. He was very curious about slumping cylinders and
Hmm.
air entrainment and
Hmm.
all the testing.
Hmm.
So I put him out there with it, and I was very fortunate because the testing lab that was there talked him every time he was doing a cylinder, every time he was doing a slump, and all the parts and pieces. And when we got done that day, he came up to me and he said, "You know, that was really interesting." And I said, "Well, you don't realize the importance of when you're rodding your layers, that rod
Hmm.
goes 1 inch at least into the
Hmm.
layer below,
Hmm.
and how he taps it and sets it up. You don't realize how important that is because when you start breaking cylinders and they fail, it's not always because the mix was wrong.
That's
It
right.
could be in
Could be in the
incorrect
way you cast those
cylinders.
cylinders.
Yeah,
Yep.
or somebody bumped them and
Yep.
moved them because they
Yep.
have to sit there.
Right.
And it was funny because I always like the young ones on the pours with me. So we'd do a 2 o'clock pour and I'd bring him in and he would watch the pour and, keeping the wire mesh, the deck, the rebar. Cause those, when you have sections and it just spreads all over the place, they set them in the cones, but yet they still knock the rebar around.
Hmm.
So he learned to have two guys from the concrete crew to the forming crew to retie the rebar to keep it in place and set it back up behind the pour.
Hmm.
And I look forward to seeing him in the future when he becomes a superintendent
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the time that it takes.
Yeah.
You if you if you were looking at a superintendent, what would you look for as a strength in a superintendent?
I want somebody who's kind of self-driven, somebody who is curious, somebody who's not afraid to kind of self-educate.
Right,
I think that's important, and follow through is hugely important.
right,
They got to go out and inspect. Right.
yeah,
We can't just take a sub's word for the, "Hey, I'm done."
yeah,
You got to go out and you verify it, especially if you're setting up for inspections with a municipality or a private provider.
right,
Go look at it before you bring these guys out here, because the worst thing you can do is bring an inspector out. He walks out, the first thing he looks at is incomplete work, and he gets upset and he walks off.
right.
So, I would say that those are probably some things that are very, very important. Somebody who is punctual, somebody
That's a
who
big ticket right there.
big, yeah. I mean, if you've
Big,
got a good attitude and you get to work on time, I can teach you a lot.
right,
I can fill the gap of what you don't know. We can teach that.
right.
You don't have to know everything, because none of us know everything. I mean, I learn stuff all the time.
Yep.
And like I
Even
said
even at
earlier,
our age.
absolutely. Like I said earlier, if you're not learning today, then you missed a golden opportunity. So,
Right. And there's something new to learn every day
yep,
as they come up.
yep.
And they pile that experience up and helps them out.
Hmm.
And it's interesting when I started in as a superintendent, you know, 50K a year was a good pay.
Hmm.
Now a superintendent can start between 65, 75K a year. And depending on how much growth you have as a superintendent, you can get close to the 250 to 300.
Hmm.
The superintendent I worked with that was doing the nuclear power plant
Hmm.
back, that was years ago, and I know he was over 150K back then, so it has to be quite a bit more than that.
Right. Right.
And the one thing I've noticed that you haven't done is you're not specialized in one spot. You're not a school builder,
Yep.
you're not a theme park builder, you're not a high rise. You've done
Yep.
various projects in your career, so it gives you a different look
Hmm.
at how you see each project and how you develop the flow and what you're doing because not all of them are the same,
They
but
aren't.
there are characteristics of each one that drive what do you do first. I mean, it's very common, put the deep work in first.
Hmm.
And when you're doing a high rise that has a deep footing and you're shoring next to the road to hold yourself up and protect the surrounding structures, there's a whole another ballgame.
Absolutely.
So um, it's getting time. I see the sun's come up
Yeah.
and the job's getting lit. I always enjoy having second pair of eyes, peer review from me. And if you got time, and what I like to do is go walk the job and see what, let me know what you see. Ask me the questions. I'm working on the schedule update also right now. Uh, Give me a second opinion and stuff. Love to have you. If we can take a break and go walk the job, we got stretch and flex. We got our morning startup meeting we'll do, and then we can come back in here and reconvene. I got some further questions for you. Would you,
Great.
you got time
Awesome.
for that?
Yeah, look forward to it. Let's go
Well,
do it.
that's great. Well, thank you for joining the job site today. And I would also like to say thank you to Colony Hardware and Safety. They've provided our safety gear that we use in our podcast. So another edition is complete. We will see you shortly and continue with Joe Brown again. Thank you.